So, hello everyone,
Hello.
and today we're delighted to welcome Eliza. Is it okay? Yeah. So, also known as Elikutty. So, your channel that is specialized in Malayalam, and we would be delighted to learn a bit more about it. I have to admit, I loved your video on Armenia, and it was quite fun because we visited Georgia with Iglika and my father-in-law, and I had kind of very similar interaction with them, like half English, half Bulgarian. So that was kind of fun. So
Right.
yeah.
So, Eliza, would you like to quickly introduce yourself, your story, and maybe your channel and your relationship to Malayalam?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a language educator. I've been in the ESL community since about 2009, and I've always loved languages. Anytime I moved to a new place, I'd like to experience the culture, the language, the food. And I moved to the UAE in 2015, and I thought I'd be learning Arabic, but then I met my husband, and he's from Kerala, and he speaks Malayalam. So I decided to dive in and try to learn it as well. And that was in 2017, and I started a studygram and just trying to share the things that I found out about Malayalam, because it's not the most widely studied language. And it got very popular. I got a great feedback. And then, 4 years later, I'm making tutorial videos and doing beginner lessons on Discord. So yeah, it's been a really cool journey, and it's been really neat being able to make the language a bit more accessible to other people who want to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's lovely. So Malayalam is one of the 20-something, 22 maybe official languages spoken in India, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, this is the first time
Yeah, it's spoken mostly in the state of Kerala. Yeah, to the south. Yes, of India, and it's in the Dravidian language family, so it's related to Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, and so those languages.
Okay, what do you find most challenging in the language?
The grammar is completely different from English. First of all, it's like many Asian languages, it's subject, object, verb. And then on top of that, they have a lot of agglutination. And so you can say something very precisely, but you have to add just the right amount of endings to it. So it produces very long, continuous words, which can be quite challenging for someone from an English background that doesn't have any experience with that kind of agglutination. So you have to kind of think about everything you want to say before you say it. And it does take quite a bit of mental gymnastics when you're first trying to get into it.
Yeah,
I see. Well, my native language, Bulgarian, is also strongly morphological. So we also tend to add everything at the back, including the definite article. I think this confuses you sometimes.
at the beginning,
like you wonder if you should add it or not.
Yeah, it can be a bit tough if you're not used to it. Definitely.
Yeah, and also the thing with Malayalam is that Kerala itself wasn't a state until more recently in history. So Malayalam itself wasn't really a standardized language. It was spoken by this many people, but you travel 20 kilometers and the dialect changes, the slangs change, the way people speak. So I just made a video on my Instagram 2 days ago, and the joke is when you're messaging your 4 Malayali friends and they each say the same phrase completely differently. So it's difficult when you're studying the language versus using that. And I think, I've had friends that study German that had the same issue. They went to Germany and they're like, I actually don't understand German because I don't know the local dialect of what's being spoken. So
well, yeah, I suppose that's an issue that you will encounter with the languages less let's say with let's say kind of like written down resources, and something is more kind of spoken. It will always evolve, like depending on like where you are precisely, and it's kind of really interesting as a as a learner. Like it can be quite challenging.
Is the alphabet shared with other languages in India, or is it specific? Okay.
It's specific to the language. It does share things in common with, again, it's in the same family as Tamil, for example. So the morphology follows a similar pattern where the vowels have their own distinct shape, but then when it's combined with a consonant, it changes shape. But the actual shapes themselves have only a few overlapping similarities, but then they're distinct. So that's one thing that people who first start learning Malayalam get very overwhelmed with, is that they're like, I don't need to learn how to read it, I just want to speak it. But what they're missing out on is that a lot of sounds in Malayalam don't exist in other languages, particularly English. So it's actually better to try to learn the alphabet and the sounds that it represents, because if you try to Latinize it, you're missing out on different things. So for example, there's 2 distinct L sounds, there's several distinct N sounds, you know, there's sounds that don't even exist in English, so they get approximated, and it doesn't make sense kind of in Latin script. So it looks intimidating, but it's actually quite fun. And then another interesting element is they have conjunct letters, where, for example, a N sound and a ta sound will be combined and makes a nda, like this. And it's one of those things where if you grow up learning it, it becomes like second nature. But for someone studying it, they'll be like, oh, another letter? I thought I've got them all, but here's a new one.
I see.
Yes, we'll be very interested to learn more about this, about the letters and the pronunciation. It's something that I struggle with. I think you probably do better. I also read something that I find really interesting, is that there are 2 versions of we, an inclusive and exclusive one. At that point, I was wondering if there's any language that has that.
Yeah, I think a few languages do, and Malayalam is the first one that I've worked with that I know for sure has it, but I think that's common at least in other Indian languages. I know in Dravidian languages it's there, and I also thought that even in some European languages it's there, but I can't confirm that. But it's really interesting because there have been times in English I've been talking with my husband and I'll be like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to the store, and he'll be like, which we, who? And I'm like, oh, not you, me and my friends are gonna go to the store. And then I'm like, oh, it makes sense to have it inclusive and exclusive we. Yeah, so it's one of those things that's like, that makes sense.
Yes, it can be a source of confusion. Like when I tell my husband we've been there before, and he says, oh, have we? And I'm like, no, not with you. You weren't there.
Yeah, usually quite absent-minded. So. Yeah.
But you know, pronouns in general in Malayalam can be a bit confusing because culturally, what you call someone has to do with their status more than the actual pronoun that you use. So recently I made a video about if I refer to my husband as he, like the standard word for he in Malayalam is avan. If I do that, people will be like, why are you disrespecting your husband like that? It sounds like he's so distant from you. It's like a very, you know, you should refer to him either by his name or use like a more familiar or more respectful pronoun. So honestly, you can actually talk to someone as if they're in the third person. We see this in a lot of Eastern languages. So instead of asking my mom directly, how was your day in English, in Malayalam, you would never ask like to your mom, you would just say, how was Mother's Day today? And that's completely normal.
It's a bit like
because
Japanese.
you're showing
we live in Japan, so yes, we've encountered this. They don't really say you. It sounds rude.
Yeah.
And
Also and same thing for he and she.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, I was going to say for he and she as well. There's just so many different levels, so many different words, but most of the time you would just refer to them as their title. Like Arjun's younger brother always refers to Arjun as Cherta, which is older brother. Even when talking to me, he'll be like, oh, Cherta is coming today to do this. And so we know he's talking about Arjun, but he won't even refer to Arjun by name because of the respect factor culturally.
Yeah. Actually, it's I was gonna mention this, like in one of your videos, like you were like reacting funny to someone calling you auntie instead of I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the other.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that that is similar in Bulgarian. You also have the same notion, like calling someone either auntie or like.
That's right. Uncle, grandmother, grandfather, if it's someone that could be your grandmother or grandfather, or older.
Or younger, or
younger. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm staying in Vietnam right now, and sometimes you're not sure, like, do you refer to them as younger sister or do you refer to them as older sister? So like you see someone at the market and you want to say emui, but then you don't want to insult them and you don't want to call them chioi because then you don't want them to feel like you're calling them old. So it's like this very weird conundrum of how do I refer to this person on the street? So yeah, pronouns can be tricky.
Yes. Okay, then maybe we'll leave it to you to teach us whatever you think you can teach us in this amount of time.
Sure, sure.
Great.
So is it okay if you can enable screen sharing for me?
Sure,
I've got a
yes.
few slides I'd love to share with you.
Yeah, lovely.
So do you see this clearly?
Yes, perfect.
All right, hooray. So swagadam, welcome to my lesson. Swagadam means welcome in Malayalam. So this is a great way to, you know, greet someone the first time they come somewhere or if they come to your house. So just swagadam, it's just a really homey feeling word. So a lot of Malayalis, they enjoy hearing that, especially because most of the diaspora, you know, they live in the Gulf, they live in other places and they visit home once a year. And so it's always nice to greet someone with a nice swagadam. So I usually start, yes. And then, there we go. I always like to start with a couple disclaimers that I myself am an intermediate learner of Malayalam. So I generally do beginner stuff. And I do have a background in language teaching. So that's how my methodologies are informed. And also I'd like to have a disclaimer that, as I said before, Malayalam has so many variations. So what I go over today is one way to say things, but there might be other ways. And so I would love to encourage your audience, if there are Malayalis watching this, feel free to put comments or corrections or anything in the comments so that we can all learn from it. It's definitely a community effort anytime you're working with a language.
Yeah,
so today I'm going to go over some basic introduction phrases, and we're going to go over the verb arnit, which is like is, am, and are, and I'll show you how it's used in the negative and question forms. We'll also go over some subject pronouns, and then we'll do some pronunciation of 3 N sounds in Malayalam.
Wow.
So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, like a nice little taster introduction to Malayalam.
Great.
Cool.
So I'm going to read this dialogue, all right?
Okay.
And as you see on the right-hand side, I have it in Latin script, and then on the left side, I have it in Malayalam, so that you can see, but also be able to follow along. All right.
Okay.
So the dialogue says, "Oru kapi taramo. Perendane Eliza. Lisa alla Eliza. Aposheri." So looking at this picture and looking at this conversation, what can you guess is happening right now?
Well, it's a kind of shopping interaction, I assume, judging by the picture, but then it also sounds friendly because you're introducing yourself and saying your name.
Yeah. So the first sentence says "Oru kapi taramo." What does kapi sound like? It's a cognate. Where is one place where they always mess up your name? So she's
the credit card.
Yeah.
she's ordering a coffee here. This is a coffee situation. So she's speaking to the barista. Okay. And so she's ordering a coffee. Yeah. And then he says, "Pere endarne," and she says, "Eliza." So from that, can you kind of understand what "pere endarne" might mean?
What is your name?
Exactly. Good. Pay attention to the words that are bolded. We have 3 more dialogues, and then we'll review more toward the end. But our focus is on the words in bold. So don't worry if you don't catch the meaning of everything. We're going to go over just the main points. So here we have another person at the barista counter. Ningal Amanda Arno Allah Yan Eliza Arne. Ayyo, sorry. Eliza, Ningalude Kapi, Nanni. All right, so from the context and what we already know, what do you think is happening in this conversation?
If you want to go ahead.
So well, okay, the Allah is no, isn't it? So there's a negation. Yeah.
Yes.
And
I think it's like in Starbucks where they call you by name to give you a
Yes.
coffee. I see.
Yes.
Yes, and then they get the name
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they give her the coffee and she says, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
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 All right. Now we have a third conversation in the same place. Namaskaram. Ningal Eliza ano? Ade. Ningal Arjun ano? Ade. Kandathu sandosham. Enikkum. Oru minute. All right. So we now have Arjun here. And they're meeting for the first time. So Arjun, a phrase that you usually say the first time you meet someone. What do you think it might mean?
Like, I guess nice to meet you.
Right.
Actually, is it me or it's namaskaram sounds a lot like namaste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Malayalam is special in that it's a Dravidian language that also has a lot of Sanskrit influence that came later. And so you'll find that if you study Sanskrit-based languages like Hindi or Punjabi, these types, then you'll find a bit of resemblance in some of the words that are used in vocabulary. And often you have duplication where you might have a Dravidian word for something and a Sanskrit-based word for something, both meaning the same thing used in the language.
Right.
Yeah. So namaskaram, you're right, would be similar to namaste, and they use namaste as well in Malayalam. So just for a fun tidbit, if you want to use a more Dravidian word, there is the word kupakai, and that's like literally like placing the hands together, and that's a pure Dravidian word. Yeah. So Arjun met Eliza, and nice to meet you. And I really like this phrase kandathu sandosham because it literally means in seeing you, happiness.
Oh wow!
So it's
Yeah.
like,
So-
it's really nice. Sandosham means happiness, and kadatil in seeing. Yeah, so it's really nice. Yeah. All right, and then the last conversation for this lesson, Arjun now is going to the barista, and oru chaya taramo. Sheri, perendane Arjun. Sheri Arun, oru chaya. Alla, nyan Arjunane, Arun alla. All right, so we're seeing some repetition of patterns. So it's quite clear from context what's happening in this conversation. Does he order a coffee?
I guess you ordered tea, chai. It's kind of common chai.
Yeah, exactly.
In many languages.
Yeah. So we have chaya and coffee. Yes. So this is a tea, and then they ask for his name, and again you have the negation Allah. Yan Arjunane Arun Allah. Okay, good.
Okay.
Cool.
So let's jump into our pronouns. Again, Malayalam pronouns are exciting.
Yeah.
The easy thing is nyan is always nyan. There's not many other variations to that. And pro tip, once you get more comfortable in Malayalam, you can actually drop nyan if you're making sentences about yourself. So instead of saying nyan Eliza arne, I can just say Eliza. Nyan. Well, you can say nyan Eliza, or if I'm saying like, I went to the store, I can just say Mark the Lake Boy. I went to the store. It's understood that I'm talking about myself.
The conjugation is like strong enough to tell that you're
It's just
referring
understood.
to yourself.
Yeah. And here is a case of Malayalam being hierarchical. So you have me, which you can use with children or friends your age or people that you're close to, not family members. We'll get back to that. And then Ningul is a bit more formal. You can use this with strangers or people of like a higher position. Some people don't like being called Ningul. Again, it's a regional thing. Some people feel like it's really distant and kind of cold. And then the last three are hardly used. You see them in maybe the media or in literature. You have tan, tangul, and it's just very polite, very distant, and not used very much. But often with you, if you're asking a question, you can just drop it. Jaya Vernal, do you want tea? Like it's understood that I'm asking you, so I don't have to use you. And again, you can also use the person's name speaking to them in third person, it's absolutely correct and polite. So there's that.
Okay.
But the one takeaway is that you can just say nyan when talking about yourself, and that doesn't really change. So
Okay.
I see.
notice that this is the nominative case. Malayalam has about 5 or 6 cases, and so we're not going to jump into them today, but this is the nominative case. The most common ones that you'll see are nominative and dative cases, which for English speakers is a bit to wrap their head around, but it's really fun once you know the difference between the two.
Yeah.
All right. Now here we have the verb to be. And here we see the positive version, arne,
Oh, okay.
negative version, alla, the question form, ano. And then you can see in the last example, it can be attached to question words. Endarne, what is.
Okay.
Also notice that in Malayalam, you don't have to worry about verb conjugations, whether I'm talking about me, you, he, she, it's always arne, alla, arno. You don't have to worry about changing the tense, the conjugation of it, depending on the subject. Okay, so here is an example of the word order. In English, we would say I am, you are, he is, but in Malayalam, it would just always be arne. So nyan, Eliza arne. Ningal, Arjun arno. So again, in English, we switch the word order when we're making a question, but in Malayalam, you can have the question here. It stays the same. The verb stays the same at the end, but it's changed into the question form, which is adding the long O sound.
Okay.
So let's try to create a dialogue together. All right. You weren't expecting me to test you today. It's all right. So
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah. So the first sentence says, hello, are you Harish? So how, from what you remember, would you create a sentence in Malayalam?
Namaskaram.
You good.
Yeah.
Harish, Anu.
No, very good. All right. And then, yes, I am Harish.
I remember Allah.
Maybe just Harish and Anu.
Arnett, yes, very good. And I didn't go specifically over this, but to say yes, to make an affirmative, is ade.
Okay.
That's one way to affirm something is ade. Ade, nyan, Harish, Arnett. All right. And then, are you married?
Mary Hano.
Mariano. Good. And then?
Allah.
Mariam Anu.
Arne. Very good. And then, sorry, we can just say sorry.
Yes.
There is a word for sorry in Malayalam, but people hardly use it, and it seems as very formal. And if you use it, they'll be like, "What? I didn't like hurt you or anything. Why are you saying it like this?" So just English sorry is okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay. That's it. Sorry.
They are nice to meet you. This beautiful expression with happiness in seeing you, but I didn't remember. Did you? You're better at that.
I'm afraid, if I could go back a slide, what did I like to tell you? So,
Kandatil Santosham.
Very good. Yes, Kandatil Santosham. And then for me too, we can just say Enikyam. Enikyam.
Enikyam.
Yeah. So here it is again. Namaskaram. Ningal Harishano. Ade Harishane. Ningal Mariano. Allah. Nyan Mariamane. Sorry. Kandatil Santosham. Enikyam. One thing that I'd like to bring up here, I know that in the anglicized form, I put a U, but in Malayalam, there's a special mark here called a Chandrakala that literally means moon mark. And the reason that this is here is because in Malayalam, if you see a consonant by itself, it automatically has a short A sound. So ka,
Okay.
ka, na, ma, la, every letter is read like this. But if you have the Chandrakala here, it clips the sounds and it becomes more like a schwa. So it's like arn, arn.
Oh, all right.
So it's not a proper oo sound. Again, this is why it's difficult to anglicize Malayalam. So if you see a Chandrakala here, it's a short arn, arn.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of beginners make the mistake of pronouncing that ooh really heavily. It's like when people study Japanese and they say the desu. And it's like, yeah, it's not quite desu. So yeah.
Oh, and we live in Kyoto, and there they actually pronounce it very much. Yes, I'm surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But if you go to Tokyo, they're just like, oh my god. Yeah. Cool. Nice. Now here is a slightly easier exercise. Change the positive sentence into a negative sentence. So here we have Nyan, Eliza, Arne. How do we make this negative?
Nyan, Eliza, Allah.
That's right, Allah. Good. All right. Ningal, Arjun, Arne.
Just changing ending. Ningal, Arjun, Allah.
Very good. And also in English, we tend to have shorter consonant timing, but in Malayalam, we want to make sure that we really get that consonant timing. This is something I struggle with too. So it's not Allah, it's Allah, 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 double la.
Okay.
Yeah, Allah. So Ningal, Arjun, Allah.
Ningal, Arjun, Allah.
All right. Nyan, Lisa, Arne. How do we make this negative?
Would it be again with Allah?
Allah. Yeah.
I'm doubly struggling because like being French, we don't really have this notion of like stress, so it's a bit tough.
I have a friend, he's a linguistics major and he's just done a lot of great work, and he learns a lot of vocabulary and grammar from me, but he will always message me and be like, Eliza, your consonant timing. I'm like, I'm sorry. So it's definitely, it's like, you got it, but you missed this thing. He always comes in and he chimes in on my pronunciation, and I hate it, but I need it. So it's just like,
but totally get you that.
Yes, I think it's nice to have native speakers who correct you for little things, and then others who don't. Like some kind of balance between you feeling good about yourself and like knowing your mistakes and correcting them.
Absolutely. So let's change these into questions. So it's a really funny way to phrase a question, but Nyan, Eliza, Arne, how do we make this into a question?
And then Eliza, Arno.
Arno, yeah. Arno.
Is there also a bit of a question intonation, like going upward?
It goes, Eliza, Arno. Everyday boy. It depends on the question. Like Arno usually has a falling intonation, but if you're asking about things like like where have you gone, it kind of flips up. So I think it just depends on the type of question. So like if it's a yes no question, it tends to go down. But it really depends on context now, because ano is also used like is it. So like if I tell you like, oh, we're going to Kerala tomorrow, ano, like really, it depends on the context, I think. So
I see.
But it is a very, like, there's a lot of intonation in the language, and there's a huge flow, and attach that to agglutination. And sometimes when I listen to people, I can't tell where the words start, where the words end, where the sentences are going. So, but it's fun, and then you have all the different dialects. So, but so again, Arne is positive, Allah is negative, and Arno is question form. All right, and again, here we have the answers. So quite straightforward there. Now let's do some pronunciation drills. So I love teaching using mouth images, because I think some people, it's really difficult to explain where sounds come from if people are not used to making those sounds. And I think you understand. French pronunciation, for example, has a lot of special elements of it. And sometimes it's really hard to just make the sound over and over again and hope that they understand what you're trying to do. So this is something I try to do with people to help them kind of visualize. And I always say it's like going to the gym. You know, you have to train yourself, you have to spot yourself. And then once you get used to doing it, it'll get easier over time. So we have 3 N sounds here in Malayalam. The first one is a front N, where it's just like a lot of languages. Na. The tongue goes right behind the front teeth. Na. So namaskaram, ni, ningal, like this. So it's just na, na, na. And in English, it's always written as NA. So, okay, pretty straightforward.
Okay.
This is a special sound. This is a retroflex N. And again, it's written as NA, and so people get confused when they read it in English letters. But actually, you push your tongue back, it touches your palate, and you go na.
No. No.
Na. Na. So when we're saying Nyan, Eliza, Arne, that's the retroflex na that's coming there. We don't say Ane, we say Arne. Arne. So go ahead and try the retroflex na.
No.
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 Na.
No.
Na.
No.
Arne.
No.
No.
Arne. Good. So for some people, like when I first started learning Malayalam, I would hear like this R sound, and other people do too, because I do hear people saying Arne, because that's them trying to make that, not realizing it's a retroflex sound, but yeah, it's a very soft Arne, Arne. This N sound is really common, like for the word do not want, vernda, you know, so there's a holiday coming up, Ornam. So like it's a very, very commonly used sound. And when you're texting in English, you're not going to convey it. So there are different meanings. You can change the word completely by using a different letter, obviously. So those are the 2 that get confused quite often for beginners. The third one is a nya. Nya. Some Slavic languages, I think, also have this sound, where it's just like, it's written as NJA, but it's one sound, and it's nya. Nya. And
it's like
your
Spanish. And also yes, with
nya. Yeah, like with the tilde, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is similar, nya. And so like when we say nyan.
Nyan.
All right. So now we're gonna do a fun activity where we're gonna do some minimal pairs. Do you guys have you guys done minimal pair exercises before?
No.
No.
This is me being my language nerd self. So minimal pairs is when you listen to 2 words that have the same phonemes, but one is slightly different, and you have to listen for the difference. So for example, in English, that would be ship versus sheep, right? Okay, so this is a really good way to isolate your listening and also help your pronunciation. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some words aloud, and you have to try to guess which N sound do you hear in the word. Okay. All right. So the first word is barni. Barni. All right. Okay. The second word is arne. Arne. The third word is vernam. Vernam. The fourth word is manam. Manam. And the last word is man. Man. So you don't need to be able to read the words, but you should be able to try to pick up on the N sounds. So do you want to hear it one more time, or do you want to see your answers?
Yes, maybe let's hear them one more time, one by one, and try to guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So number 1, Barney. Barney.
First one. I
The
would say.
first one I would say
Yeah.
too is
So do you think it's A or B?
A.
A.
All right. Number 2, Arne. Arne.
B.
B.
Okay. Number 3, Verno. Verno.
Maybe, yeah.
I think B.
All right. Number 4, Manam. Manam.
A.
B.
Okay.
And the last one, Man. Man.
A.
All right.
It's not so
Here are your
it's not so pronounced.
All right. So I'm
Cool.
going to read both of them out for you now so you can hear the
Okay.
difference. Okay.
Yeah.
So number 1, it's Bunny,
Mhm.
Barney.
Oh,
Number 2,
okay, okay.
Okay.
Anna, Arna.
Okay.
Number 3, Verna, Vanam.
Okay.
Number 4, Manam, Marnam. Number 5, Marn, Man. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a very
Yeah.
subtle thing to hear. And if you're
Mhm.
not used to retroflex sounds, I promise you, I was literally crying because my husband would be like, don't you hear the difference? And I'm like, it's the same sound. And he's like, it's not the same sound. It took a long time. So don't worry. This is very, very common for when you're hearing new sounds that you're not used to. So that's why I do these exercises, because it's really helpful with like discerning all of that. So
Yeah.
Yes, especially when we had them like really juxtaposed at the end. That helped.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We see the
difference is,
difference.
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I hope you guys are having fun. with
Oh,
Malayalam.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome.
It's great to pick up on elements of a language that you're really not, let's say, like even culturally aware of. Like you're really learning
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah,
by
the first time we're doing something with an Indian language.
It's really cool that you guys are like looking at Malayalam, because a lot of people jump to like Hindi and a few of the more popular languages. And I think it's neat because there are 22 official languages of India, but there's like literally dozens, like hundreds of languages within India itself. And so, you know, they come from different language families. The Northeast has completely different languages as well. Sikkimese, Assamese, these types of things. The South, you know, has their own family. And, you know, even within one state, you'll have 3 or 4 like dialects and varieties and other community languages, like Konkani or Tulu, that don't really have their own state and are actually falling out of use. So it's really important to like shine lights on different Indian languages.
Yeah.
Because like Hindi is not going anywhere. It's okay. But like, you
Yeah,
know, these
yeah.
other languages, it's like really precious to kind of focus in on those. And you know, one thing that I've noticed is that Malayalis feel excited like that. And I'm sure like anyone from these states would be like so excited, like, oh, hey, I've got my language here on this global platform. People know about us. Because even me growing up, my association with India was like Taj Mahal, butter chicken, and Bollywood, you know, and that's only like this much of what India is. It's like, it's like if you went somewhere and it's like, oh, you're from France. I've got this German friend. Do you know him? Because you're both European, right? You know, it's like that.
Yes, same
It's like
logic.
that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really great to kind of like look more deeply into that. And I hope you find other great Indian language creators.
Absolutely. Yes, we try to focus on less popular languages. Of course, we are also open to more popular ones like Hindi, especially to make comparisons. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, all right. So in our last little exercise, we're going to do a conversation practice. So I have the conversation in English, and then at the bottom, I've got a word box to help you pick from to develop the conversation. So there's 2 of you. So one of you can be the green font and one of you can be the white font. and go ahead and start building your conversation.
Okay.
Sure. So do you want?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So hello is Namaskaram.
Mhm.
What's your name?
Speak.
Yeah, Paru. I'm sorry, I'm butchering it.
It's okay. Don't worry. It's fine.
Anfano.
Great. So, Peru
Peru.
endarne.
Andarne.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right.
Nyan iglika anu
Mhm.
peru and nanu.
Okay.
Nyan. Alex. Nyan Alex. Anu. Well, the full one is Alexander, but well, let's stick to Alex. Alex Anu. Kanda, sorry.
Conductil. It's okay.
Kandathil. Santo Sam.
Very good.
Enikum.
Nikum.
Thank you. Great.
Mm.
So in Malayalam, the TH is, there's different THs, but this one would be santosham. It's a soft sound. So often in Malayalam, at the beginning of a word, it's a stronger sound, and in the middle of the word, it gets reduced. So if it starts with TH, it might be like potatil, but if it's in the middle of a word, like sandosham, it's a softer, it's a reduced. The T becomes more like a D sound, sandosham.
Okay.
Pero endarne. It's not a heavy ta, so endarne. You see this often in words like with K, it sounds like ka, but in the middle of a word, it sounds like ga. Or at the beginning of a word, it might be ja or cha, and then it gets reduced to cha. So it does get reduced in the middle of a word, and that's where double letters come in. But that's getting ahead of ourselves.
Oh wow! Okay.
So great. So let me jump in and try a little dialogue with you guys. Namaskaram. Peru endarne.
Nyan iglika anu.
Nyan Alex Anu.
Peru and nanu.
Yeah, endarne. Okay. Nyan Eliza. Let's see. I'm going to test you. How would I say this? Ningle Francil Arno. France-il Arno. So are you in France?
Allah. Allah.
Well, Greece.
Yeah, Griselane. Yeah, Griselane.
Griselane.
Very good. Ningle teachers Arno.
How's yours?
Ade.
Ate. Teachers. Anu.
Very good. Great. Ningle. Let's see. Bulgaria yil nin arne. Are you from Bulgaria?
Yeah. Nyan. Can I just say I know, like I am, or would I have to repeat?
You could just say ade. Just ade is fine. Alex Bulgaria yil nin arno. Alex.
Allah. Francia.
Francia din Arne.
Francia.
Yes. So you've got the Arne, Arno, Ade, Allah. Yeah. So now you can do some very basic introductions in Malayalam.
Great.
Well, brilliant.
So good. Cool. I'll Oh, and then I have links here, and I don't know if you want to share the slides with your followers, but they can find my YouTube channel, and
Oh,
I
definitely.
have specific
Okay.
videos on pronouns Arne and saying you and the different na sounds. So everything that we went over, I do have an informational video on that.
Okay, great.
And then
Mm.
this is like, that's all to be said from now. For now,
Mm.
ako lang parang pole. That's it for now. So I
Mhm.
will stop sharing, and then happy to chat and more on anything that you'd like
Yeah,
to know about
sure.
Malayalam.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, that was great. That was a brilliant snippet, like in order to kind of like really basic introduction. So, well, thank you about that. Where,
Of course,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
But do people get surprised when you start speaking to them in Malayalam, or do they speak back to you in English?
Mm.
Well, I think they get excited and then they do the speaking really fast. Like, oh wait, Father, like they have to speak slowly, please. But no, and it's useful because like if I go to Kerala gets a lot of tourism, especially like European tourists. It's a beautiful coastal area, lots of beaches and things like that. So like when I get in a taxi, I try to speak in Malayalam right away. So like they know that, please don't rip me off. Like I know where I'm going, that kind of a thing. But it also endears me to them. Like we start chatting, they like to know where I'm from, they like to know my story. So it's really nice. And it's made me a lot of connections. I've traveled through Kerala by myself, and with Malayalam, I've been able to make friends. I've been able to have connections. I've been able to like meet someone like in every city that I've visited. So it's just like really cool to be able to have, that kind of a connection. So
Yeah, something you don't really get as a tourist.
Yeah.
That's why we also enjoy being in Japan, but not as tourists. Cruising things.
And the thing is, like, when foreigners speak Japanese in Japan, like there is that reaction of happiness, but it's not like so much of a shock because Japan is like a very popular culture. A lot of people move there. A lot of people are interested in the media and the language and working abroad and things like that. But with Malayalam, it's like, wow, you know about Kerala, you know about Malayalam. That's really cool. And people do get like genuinely surprised. And, I don't know if you've ever had that moment where someone's talking about you. So you turn around and then you start speaking to them and they're like, so like I've had a few of those moments. It's very satisfying.
Oh, yes.
And it's fun. It's kind of in a way envy you because with Bulgarian I never really had that experience because I have like origins from Eastern Europe. So people are never surprised when I talk in Bulgarian. So like they're surprised when I tell them I'm French, but that's it. So it must be nice.
And usually, what kind of people are interested in learning a language like Malayalam? Would it be people who like have origins from there, or that are interested in multiple languages, or have something in particular for this language?
Yeah, so sorry, it cut just a little bit, but from what I understood, you're asking what type of people are usually interested in learning
that's
Malayalam?
it.
Okay. So often, originally, I thought it would just be people like me who have a relationship or connected to Kerala through their partner or family members. But I found that a lot of Malayalis in the diaspora, they love my content because it's like a low risk way of practicing their language. And so they get to tap back into that. Because once you go to America or Australia or the UK or anywhere, you'll have little pockets of Malayalis, but it's just not strong enough to instill the language, or they might be able to speak it fluently, but they can't read and write it. And even in Kerala itself, if you go to an English medium school or you follow certain curriculums, you don't have that depth of knowledge of the grammar or conventions of Malayalam. And also when you speak something from birth, you kind of take it for granted. So a lot of people who follow me are fully fluent in Malayalam, but they're fascinated. They're like, I've never thought about that. I didn't have to think about that before. So it's a good mix. And when I host my free lessons on Discord, I've had such a lovely turnout of different kinds of people. Like I've had people from all the way from New Zealand to Canada and all in between, people with Tamil as their first language, English as their first language, like a lot of Europeans, and just all different levels too. Malayalis come and hang out in my lesson to provide their own insight and to give feedback and answer questions that I probably can't answer. So it's just such a cool thing to like see people get together. Music and movies are getting quite popular. Mollywood has its own cinema house, and it's a completely different genre of film. You know, Hollywood likes to sell the fantasy. Most of Hollywood is like based in reality, slice of life, village films, things like that. And so it's like, you know, really, really different. And people are attracted to the types of cinema that gets produced through Malayalam media houses. And so that, and then like you mentioned, there are people who study Sanskrit or other languages and they get fascinated by Malayalam because it has elements of Sanskrit in it, but it's very different. And so they kind of use their Sanskrit background and kind of go through it that way. So it's all kinds of people. It's more than you would expect. And I'm really excited that I've been able to find a community that's really interested in it.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, and maybe, yeah, we're mostly talking about language, obviously, but I always like to ask about food at the end. Can you please tell us what's specific about the cuisine? How is it different from what kind of we all know about Indian cuisine?
Yeah. So most Kerala dishes, mainstream Kerala dishes, always start with coconut oil, curry leaves, and mustard seeds. That's like how you start the dish. Or it's the tempering that you use at the end to give it that final, you know, blast of flavor. And, you know, they use the layers of flavor. You've got, you know, red chili powder, you've got turmeric, you've got cumin, you've got coriander, you've got, you know, what is it? When you remember the word in Malayalam and you forget the word in English, tamarind. It has tamarind. And Kerala is famous because it's one of the states in India that consumes beef very openly, and then like it's a very cultural thing. But actually, I think the food that really stands out in Kerala is its seafood. It's right by the coast, right? So like you get fresh seafood. One of my favorite dishes, I have two that are seafood based. One is a unripe mango fish curry. And it's like this beautiful broth, and it's sour and spicy and creamy. And my second favorite dish, it literally translates to smashed and fried fish, I think. And like because they take fish, they cut it, they rub the masala in it, they wrap it in banana leaves, and they steam it. And like it just comes out really like soft and flavorful. And I really love the seafood, prawns, sardines, like there's so many different things. And there's just a lot of great dishes. And what's really cool is that Northern Kerala has a completely different culinary family than Central and Southern Kerala. So that if you go up north, you'll see different types of preparations, different types of food that are different. And it's just really neat. Like the main carbohydrate is rice. You'll see this puffy red color rice. They call it chembavari, which means copper rice. And it's the right texture to like have food stick to it. And basically in a traditional meal, you'll get a plate, you'll get your big thing of rice and all the different curries, gravies, and pickles, and you just eat it all by hand. And so when you have that really fluffy rice, it just sticks very easily and it's easier to eat. And then, yeah, it's just so many good things. I love pickle. And everything can be a pickle. You can have ginger pickle, you can have shrimp pickle, you can have apple pickle, dates and lemon pickle. It's like a condiment that you put in with everything. And yeah, sweets are usually things like there's a pudding called payasam, and you can make different types. You can make it with milk and rice, you can make it with vermicelli, you can make it with jaggery, which is kind of like a brown sugar. They have steamed things, steamed in banana leaves. They have steamed cakes. And the first bakery in India was in Kerala when the British were occupying, and they made a rum cake. And Kerala is famous for its Christmas rum cakes. So it's a very I can go on and on with the foods and different dishes. Yeah, it's you just have to go. You have to go.
Yes, exactly. It must be difficult to find somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, brilliant, and thank you for the kind of culinary intake. And
For sure.
yeah, well,
if there is anything else you would like to share, we will be happy to.
Yeah, no, I'm just, like I said, thank you again for featuring Malayalam. It's a great language, and a lot of people are interested in learning it, despite what some people think. And there's a lot of great tutors from Kerala as well, and I'd like to promote them. There's mutashi.in, She does incredible lessons. I've worked with her personally on Italki. You'll find a lot of Malayalam tutors. I do offer free classes, but again, it's for beginners and my own insight can be limited. And while I love breaking down grammar and discussing, cultural things, I always think it's best to support, teachers. So if you have the budget to hire someone, do that. And on my YouTube channel and my Instagram, I actually have a guide to tutors that you can work with, books you can learn into, and other resources as well. So I try to use my platform to connect and engage and network with other people who are interested in spreading Malayalam and teaching it to others.
Okay, great.
brilliant.
We can include links
Yeah.
Sure.
under the video, yes, with
Awesome.
particular resources and teachers for those who are interested. Okay, well,
Absolutely.
thank you very much, Eliza. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you and to learn some Malayalam.
Thank you. You guys are great students. It's so nice to have people
Oh,
so
thank
enthusiastic
you.
about
We're doing our
languages.
best. Okay.
Thank you so
Brilliant.
much.
Thank you very much. And,
Thank
yeah,
you.
Have a nice day. And, yeah.
In Malayalam, you can just say Pinne Karnam. See you later. Pinne.
Pinne
Karam.
Tene
Karam.
Karam.
Yeah.
Karam.
Karam.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.